Audio in three, two, one. You are live, Mike.
Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. Dr. D and listeners, I look forward to this when we have our special host on today, Mike Gormley. I look forward to his shows. They're never scheduled. It comes up when he finds an interesting guest or someone that he's really excited to talk about. But we've got Mike.
Somebody I owe money to.
But we got Mike Gormley on here again. And so this is the special music edition with president of LA Personal Development, and he's a star maker, Mike Gormley. Mike has worked with nearly everyone, Mike, right? You were instrumental in shaping the career of so many of our favorite artists and bands. Rod Stewart, the Bangles, Rush, the Police, Oingo Boingo. Worked with film composer Danny Elfman, Richard Gibbs, James Newton Howard, and so many others. So like I said, if you're a regular listener of the show, you've come to look forward to Mike's interviews. Each one's so unique. It's a fascinating peek behind the curtain of the famous friends, his famous friends and our favorite musicians. You can check out all of Mike's past interviews on our podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. Your interviews include Peter Asher, Jeff Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers, Carlton Santa Davis, who was a drummer with Bob Marley. You got so many more great guests. So check them out, the special music edition with Mike Gormley. Mike, I'm going to let you take it from here and introduce your special guest. So good to have you guys on the show today. And I'm bowing out. Enjoy. I'm going to the beach.
All right. Yeah, well, as usual, he's leaving us. Well, thank you very much for that introduction, Jeremiah. And we have someone on the show today. Nobody likes this guy. You know, I don't know why he's on the show. Nobody, except he's one of the nicest guys in the world, is what it comes down to. Brian Chatton, musician, producer, friend, Englishman, many things, and a 6-decade career. You think we're going to get into all of that 6 decades in the next hour or so, Brian?
What was your name again?
You're a funny guy. You're a really funny guy. You hear that laugh? You hear that laugh, Jeremiah? Get used to that laugh. That laugh. And, you know, I first met Brian in a room full of Canadians. We were everybody in the room was Canadian except for Brian. And therefore he had to step up. And his laugh took over, and everybody got really quiet, as Canadians will do. Right, Brian?
Yes. I've been known to coin a few silly phrases in my time. I'm what you would call somebody who's proud to be a fart in a spacesuit.
Okay.
Somebody once called me the crown prince of music foolery, and I'll take it.
Oh, that's a good title. It's a good and it's apt.
Rolling with Rock Royalty kind of joins onto that. So
yes, it's right. And we'll get into his amazing career. One of the reasons we're talking to him is, if you can see this, is a book. You'll see it's by Brian Chatton. Ironically, the same name as our guest today. And the book is called Rolling with Rock Royalty. And that's exactly what you do. I mean, there are stories in here of Brian's time with John Anderson from Yes, with Phil Collins, who they were in a band together, Paul McCartney. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Tony Kaye, the great musician from the band Yes, and so on and so forth. So Brian, we'll get into a lot of those stories. I know we will. But the book has been a long time coming, right? I mean, it's just you sort of talked about it for a long time, and then you finally got down to business. How long ago?
That's right. It was a 7-year experience. By the way, thanks for not mentioning Bay City Rolls, because I did look then, and well, I'd rather they didn't know about that. So
all right, we'll keep that quiet.
So 7 years it took me to write it. It took me 4 years actually to write it, and 3 years to edit it. you know, to take all the stuff out and say it as simply and as humorously as I could. So it took an extra 2 or 3 years to do that. And
That's
it's
a
still
lot.
not fun. It's still not fun.
right.
No.
Well, it's out. Can't do anything about it now.
Right. It's
That's,
doing well. It's doing really
Is
well.
it? Is it? Wonderful. It's
Yeah.
been out for how long now?
It's been out for about 18 months.
Oh, has it been
And
that long?
yeah, I'm just signing with a really cool company in England called Burning Shed, who release all the LP, yes, all that stuff. And they came to me and asked me if they could, you know, promote the book. I said, let me think about it. I thought about it. Yes.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, consider these things.
Right. So let's go back to the beginning. You're born in England, as we can tell by your fine accent.
Yeah.
And you studied classical piano for a long time before you got into other types. I mean, you started very young, didn't you?
Yeah. Hang on a minute. You've gone. Oh, there you are. You're back. I think. Yes. I started classical piano when I was 4.5, 5, and I did that for 10 years. And I had a lot of music teachers with bad breath. But anyway, I can't still concentrated. The screen's going off here, unfortunately. Hang on, Mike.
We can hear
The
you.
screen's going off. Yeah, you can't. There, you're back again, but you keep going off. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, so
we
I
can,
did
we
10
can hear
years.
you though.
Yeah. All right. Good. Well, fine. I won't bother about the screen then. So 10 years classical training, and the Beatles had just come up, started, and I just said, look, they wouldn't let me play anything other than classical music while I was, you know, first playing. I had to have the proper posture and all that. Just like Jimi Hendrix, you know, completely the opposite. So then the Beatles, and I love the Beatles music, and I like the Stones as well. So I just started to play what I heard and picked it up and got the music. I can read music, which I can get onto later with Jimi Hendrix, because that's how I got to meet him. So then my first professional gig was with the Warriors when I was 17, who had John Anderson, and John Anderson is the vocalist, and Ian Wallace on drums. Brilliant drummer. Passed away, unfortunately, 10 years ago.
John Anderson went on to form the band Yes.
Correct.
And Ian was no slouch, right? With his
He did Bob Dylan, he did Bonnie Raitt, he did Don Henley, he did King Crimson. He was a fantastic drummer, a lovely guy as well. Very funny.
And so your first band contains 3 people who have massive careers in front of them at that point in time.
We all were born really within about 15 miles of each other in towns that were still are totally unknown, you know. So
we're gonna step away just for a second, and then we'll come back and pick up on that.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Stand by. Go ahead.
Hey, Brian, just so you know, you've been on video the entire time, so we are capturing you, even if yours goes out.
Oh.
We've got you,
Okay.
just so you know. We didn't lose you.
That's great. Yeah, I think I'm okay now. It looks like the screen's staying on. So
Looking
looking
good.
into your faces. You see, that's
Richard?
important.
Richard, I saw your 2-minute signal.
All right.
I don't have a
Mike's
timer
talking to you,
on
can you hear
here.
him?
Go ahead, Mike. Say again.
I say I don't have a timer on here. When you give me 2 minutes, I don't have anything that's going to show me that. So I'm just saying, when you get down to maybe 30 seconds, give me another signal, because I'm not I'm flying.
Well, I gave you the 2.
I got that.
And
But
I
keeping
did give
track-
you the
keeping
1,
track of
but
it,
you
yeah,
went ahead with the break.
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother. I figured, okay, he's going to break, so I'm not gonna give you a cue if you're going out.
The reason I did that was that I'm not able to see my timing here, so I need a little 30-second shot, and then I'll be able to step out. Got it.
That
Okay.
would be this here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do the next segment. You ready? Here we go in 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Hi, this is Mike Gormley, and I'm sitting in for, and actually with, Jeremiah of the Jeremiah Show. And we have Brian Chatton with us, a English musician, to say the least, and many, many stories coming up. We were talking about Brian's first band, which contained John Anderson, who went on to found Yes, and Ian Wallace was the name, right, of a drummer who
Yes,
went on to work with Bob Dylan and many, many people. So a brand new little teenage band has got 3 legends in it, although they're just starting out. Is that accurate, Brian?
That's accurate. Accrington, Bury, and me was Bolton.
Uh-huh.
All kind of close to Manchester and Liverpool. So we only knew music and football, nothing else.
I mean, you've been playing classical music up to that point. How did this shift happen? How did you get over to the other side, if you will?
I had to unlearn everything, basically. Yeah, because, you know, you're kind of going all over the place. You have to have correct fingering for classical music. Well, basically, in rock and roll, it's on the same notes for about 10 minutes, you know.
Right.
And it's all usually 12-bar stuff. So it wasn't too difficult for me to do that. However, I wanted to adapt what I'd already learned. And another friend whose name will definitely come up, I think it's Keith Emerson. He basically did the same as me. He started classical training and ended up having to try and work that technique in, the classical techniques, and the really the music, the arpeggios and stuff like that you do with classical. And he was brilliant in turning millions of people onto classical music. So I try to do the same. Rock Workman, he did the same thing. You know, who else? I mean, you can tell really, I think, that the pianists that started with classical, they all have a specific kind of style. You know, we do a lot of worms, as I said.
Worms?
Worms, little worms, little tiddly things. You've got to be careful not to do too many of those. And when it's rock, you've got to kind of put it in everybody's face and lay it in hard. So I had to unlearn. It's the answer to that.
So this band is called the Warriors, and off you go. Are you regional, or are you working on being a national band in England at that point? How
well, we were according to the Liverpudlians, what a great word that is. The Liverpudlians, we were going to be the second Beatles because we played at the Cavern many, many, many times, and we loved Liverpool. Liverpool's the salt of the earth type place. You know, people are very cool, very warm-hearted. So we did a lot of things in England, and then we did the same as the Beatles did and all the other bands. And we went to Germany and did all the nightclubs, playing for pimps and prostitutes and that, the other. And I had to go to the doctor several occasions, and I won't go any further than that. My mum looked like a dartboard, Mike. Let's put it that way.
And you're still working on that, right? No, I'm sorry.
Not so much these days, but it was all well worth it, I tell you.
So I don't know how much of a jump this is, but I believe the next band, you go from a band with John Anderson, you jump to another band at some point called the Flaming Youth that has this guy named Phil Collins, or you and Phil Collins start this band. Is that a large jump, or much time in between, or how does that work?
I did a couple of things, you know, in between, but nothing really to scream about. I met Ken Howard and Alan Blakely, who were, you know Ken Howard and Alan Blakely, right, Mike?
Great writer, yeah.
You want to tell them who they were. Great writers, and they had the Herd, Peter Frampton. So I was talking to him in a club and they said they were putting this band together because they had this this theme was Arc 2, and it was a spaceship that was setting off because our Earth was coming to pretty much what's happening right now. The Earth was coming to an end, and so everybody did a Noah's Ark thing, and everybody got into this huge spaceship and went out into the universe. The critics adored it. We did our first gig at the planetarium and had all our faces and everything thrown up into the sky. What a brilliant day that was. And everybody loved it. We did a concert with the orchestra at the Lyceum. But we weren't happy because it was all kind of under their wing. We were never allowed to just do what we wanted to do, you know, and really get into more of a heavy. That's not what we wanted. Phil and I, we got on extremely well. I don't see him as often as I'd like to, but we were very close friends, and we both said, you know, what are we going to do here? Because, you know, some other band that we saw all the time, because they're very good friends of our managers, was Cream. So we'd go to parties with Cream, and we'd look over at the table, and they'd look over at us as though we were pansies, you know, poppy little fairies. And we'd look over to them and shake with fear, you know, because they were exactly what we wanted.
Ginger Baker would make you shake with fear just by looking at him. He was, I met him a couple of times, and he was a scary character in my humble opinion. But we can get into some other stuff when we come back. We're stepping away for just a moment.
Did you go off there?
All right, go ahead and get squared away there. We're good at this end.
Are you guys getting a little microphone problem there when Brian?
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to mention, is that his mic is popping a little bit in and out.
Mm-hmm. And where is the microphone? Is it just on the computer, Brian, or is it?
Yeah. If you want me to get further away from it, I think I can do that.
No, that isn't it. It's you're popping in and out, almost like a connection issue. I thought maybe it had something to do with the internet, but you were having problems with your screen before, and I hope they're not related.
Microphone. Yeah.
Did that freeze, Richard?
We could get him on the phone. Keep him.
Yeah, we'd have to go into
stuff,
but we can do that if we got time.
On the phone. You'll still be able to hear him, Mike, but at least we'll get a better sound quality.
So, Richard, I'm sorry you were both talking at the same time. What is it you want us to do?
I was going to say, have Brian call us here at the radio station, mute his microphone on Zoom, and then the audio from his phone will feed the interview as well as the video.
Great. So what do I need to do here?
Mute your microphone on your Zoom, and then give him a call.
Yeah.
Okay, and the phone number is 805-564-1290, 1290.
I'm sorry, the pen doesn't work. 805. Yeah, what was it? 564.
Correct.
Yeah.
1290.
1290. All right, I'm calling it now.
Very good. And then you can go ahead, as soon as I get you on the line, mute your microphone on your Zoom.
Yeah. Okay, you should be hearing me right now.
All right, I think we've got
you. Okay.
You need to mute the microphone, Brian. I can't hear anybody.
Hey, okay, I think we're ready to go.
I get in an echo like crazy.
Okay. Is that better? I'm getting an echo. Yep.
Okay, now you're sounding good. I'm not hearing an echo at this end.
Right. Now they're, oh, no, I am. I have. Muted. Yeah. Okay, Mike. I'm still getting an echo. I can probably cope with it if it's not going to affect. Okay, is that better? Yeah,
Mike,
I'm not getting an echo now.
Talk to Brian real quick here.
Yeah, I'm not getting an echo. It's great.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay,
All
we're
right.
good now. All right, very good. Then we'll continue on. We all set?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, stand by. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Hi, it's Mike Gormley on the Jeremiah Show. We have a special guest today, and Brian Chatton, who has played keyboard for 60 years or something like that. And but started out classical, got into pop. His first band is with John Anderson. His second band is with Phil Collins. Those are great starts. With the band with Phil Collins, what was it called again, that band?
Flaming Youth.
Flaming Youth. Flaming Youth, is that when you really got on the road? Is that when you really got out there into the world?
No, I have to say the Warriors with John Anderson, we did a ton of work in Germany, in all the clubs, the Storyville clubs in Munich, and we'd play one month, Jimi Hendrix would play the next month, Small Faces would play the next. So we'd see all these bands for one day. Our last day, our first day and their last. So we got to know a lot of bands, but only very briefly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are the recordings of the Warriors available somewhere?
There are a few. In fact, I gave an acetate to a friend of mine, Dave Watkinson in England, who just wrote a book all about the Warriors and John Anderson. Mm. And I had a couple of acetates of very first recordings of the Warriors. So it is possible to get them. And you'd go to Burning Shed. That's where I'm going to be selling my book as well.
I see, Burning Shed. And then the Flaming Youth, what about recording there?
Yeah, we got a load of singles we did, and an album called Harp 2, which was Melody Maker's album of the month, and the critics loved it and so on. We kind of didn't mind it, but we were like, we wanted to do our own stuff, you know, and we were always being told, well, you got to keep it like this. And it was a bit of a pop band. It was like Peter Frampton, because he had a band called The Herd, and he was managed by the same people. Brilliant guys, but very commercial, if that's a dirty word, you know. But we'd much have rather have been like our friends who were on the same label, and that was Cream. So like I said earlier on, we'd shiver in our boots while we didn't see them, because they'd been looking at us all like the whole prim and proper and like babes, young babes. They looked at us and they thought, you know, these kids, they just don't know anything. So Phil obviously wasn't too happy with that. We managed to stay together for 2.5 years and did several TV shows in Germany, all available, by the way, on YouTube. And I'll probably put them up on my YouTube channel very soon. Tons of videos of Phil Collins when he was a cute little lad with long hair. I'd have fancied him myself, but I want young, slightly older men. always have. Like you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're such a kind fellow. What's the road like at this point? Is it a blast? Is it hell? Is it a combination? Because you're young enough, it sort of doesn't matter if it's hell. You're still learning.
Well, here's a good one for you. My first band with my dad, he only had a Mini. So we had 3 guys in the band, so we had to put the drums, an amplifier, a microphone in the back. My dad was about 22 stone, so he was like nearly 400 pounds or something.
Whoa.
So him alone in the Mini kind of filled it. So the other 2 guys in the band would sit at the front, but before they sat in the front, they'd load the gear, and then they'd say, "Are you ready, Brian?" And I'd say, "Yeah." So I'd have to stand perfectly straight, and they would slot me in the back through all the amps and the drums, and my dad would shout in, "Are you all right, lad?" And I'd go, "Yeah, I'm all right, I'm just not. Watch where you put in those back stands." Yeah, it was fun, all right. I did suffer for my art.
So at this point, you're a piece of equipment.
Exactly.
Right. And then when you arrive, you become his son again. They pull you out, and it's a guy. But
yeah, I was smuggled into Germany exactly the same way, actually, because I was too young to play there. I was only 17. So John Anderson sat on me so that the people wouldn't see me at the borders. And that wasn't a very pleasant
so now you're not
experience.
only a piece of equipment, you're a bench.
Yes. I'll tell you what, I got to say something here, just in case.
Okay, well, then it sounds like a good
You know,
story. We don't want to interrupt you, so we'll step away for a quick moment, and then we'll come back and hear your story about being John Anderson's favorite.
well, I got a beauty about John Anderson here, so you better hang on, you guys out there.
All right, we'll get to it. Thank you.
Sorry if I'm not being serious, but
No, don't be serious. It would be a disappointment. But that sounds much better, doesn't it, Richard?
John, actually.
That phone is working well. Yeah.
Okay. 2 stories, and I'll keep them as brief as possible. They're both hilarious.
Oh no, keep talking. Keep talking. It's just fine. We can't get to everything you've done anyway. I'm aware of that. So we're just gonna, if there's anything specific, we'll have to get back to the book a little bit. But
you guys have got a half an hour.
The 70s and do another show.
You guys have a half an hour, and it's all about telling your story. So right, Mike, take as much time as you want. It's all about you.
All right, we're going to work in the radio segments first, and then you can do whatever you want with the rest of the time. We're at 34 minutes in. We'll have to break at 46, but then we do overtime, and that's going to be a good probably 15, 20 minutes.
And Brian, you might want to tease the radio listener to go to the podcast and tell a story that you really might bring them to the podcast. Tease them a little bit at the end of the radio show. At
the end of the radio show.
You mean not give them the punchline?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you have millions of stories, but yeah, that would work.
These 2 are beauties. One's what actually happened, and another one was, I'll tell you once we start. Okay. You can cut it out if you like, but
So is this first one a John Anderson story?
Yeah, they both really involved him. Yes, in the early days.
Okay. All right, here we go. This is going to be, all right, here we go in 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Hello, this is Mike Gormley, and I am sitting in for and with Jeremiah on the Jeremiah Show with our special guest, Brian Chatton, an English musician whose background is tremendous, and we're hearing really good stories, and we're about to hear a couple more regarding John Anderson. If you're a fan of the band, yes, John Anderson, founded that band. But before he did that, he was in a group with Brian, and they're actually, you're still good friends. I mean, he lives in LA now, so you guys
just did 7 songs with him on his latest album. 7 of 11 songs are all my music with Chick Corea and John Ponte, Ian Anderson, Steve Howe, Alan White, the drummer, the power drummer, Billy Cobham. I mean,
yes.
it's littered with amazing musicians, and they're all playing my music. I couldn't be more flattered. One of the great songs on it, I think, is a song called Come Up, and especially the last 3 or 4 minutes. I went to see it live because I wasn't in the band, I'm too busy, and it was just phenomenal. You know, John's a pretty cool character in many ways, and he's certainly a pioneer when it comes to music.
So there's new music available from Brian Chatton and John Anderson and some luminaries as well. So that's great news. Is it an album?
Yes, it's an album, and it came out about 9 months ago. Then he's just signed a deal with another record company, so they're re-releasing it all. And I am just thrilled to bits, I got to tell you.
What's the name of the album?
It's called 1,000 Hands, John Anderson.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you think it's available on places like Spotify and so on now, or is that something to come?
Well, you know what? If it's not available now, I'm sure if you go to 1,000 Hands on Facecloth, you call it Facebook, but never mind. If you go on Facecloth, you'll see that there's 1,000 Hands page, and you can probably order it from there. But it's going to be big news, I think, pretty soon.
Fantastic.
I think I'm going to just jump off a chair with the noose on my neck, and at least my kids will be all right for a while.
You reminded me of something, and I know you got a couple of good stories coming up, but throughout the entire book, you don't play keyboards. You play cheesecloth.
Cheeseboards.
Cheeseboard.
Cheeseboards.
Cheeseboard. So you mix words around, like, so through the book you're playing cheeseboard.
That's right. Cheeseboard, cheeky chocolate, cheeseboard Charlie, I call myself. I don't know what other people call me, but I'd rather not know.
Yeah, right. Well, we can get into that on another show when you're not here. What people say about Brian Chatton on the Jeremiah show, that's a future show.
Oh, cool. You mean Jeremiah will be on my friggin' show? Come on now.
So we got a couple of minutes. You got a couple of stories. So let's get into one of them, and then we can come back. We can get back with the other.
I just wanted to put people right. We're supposed to be whores when we're on the road, right? We have tons and tons of orgies, and, you know, everybody joins in. If I saw John Anderson's Willie, I would die. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's silly. All this stuff about us, you know, swinging from bleeding chandeliers and whatever. I just don't know what I'd do. I'd die of embarrassment if I saw any of them, the Twigs and Berries. It's just ridiculous. We were good boys. I went home with a book to my hotel every night. If you believe that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mike Gormley has had a sex change.
It's too late, Brian. It's in the book. You can't lie anymore. It's in the book. It's out there. It's in public, and I'll quote from it if you want me to counteract what you just said.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. My other story. Let me get that out of me while I can remember. I was with Tony Kay. He's a very good friend of mine. We've been friends. I taught him everything he knows. He never owned up to it. But all the solos you hear, I did them all. But don't tell him that, okay? I had to go in and redo them all. Anyway,
he happens to be a sweet guy, and Tony Kay, and through you, I think I've met him a few times. He's a wonderful.
He's a great guy. He really is.
But here's the thing.
I've only got in with a friend.
Taken up the time of your story, so we now have to actually step away again for a minute, and then we can get back to your story. I wonder if we'll ever get to it, but I'm sure if we work on it, we'll get to your John Anderson story, if not both of them. So we'll be back in a minute. This is Mike Gormley on the Jeremiah Show. We'll be back, one of these days.
Hey guys, I know you wanted to mention the live show you've got coming up next week.
I'd love to. Yeah.
So this is the last segment of the radio, so you might want to get that in on the radio to get more, a broader audience. I just want to remind you
thank
before.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so you, Brian, just so you get that, we do the radio show. The podcast now actually goes on for another 15 minutes. So Jeremiah is saying get it in the radio show as well as then on the podcast, so everybody hears about this coming up.
So
on.
you can pick and choose out of all this lot what you want to put on your radio show, right? If I'm going on a bit about all this, you can always cut it out.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that. We just want to let you know that we're about finished with the radio minutes. So if you wanted to mention anything you want to get in to the, because you'll get a double or triple the audience with the radio.
We may never get to this John Anderson story, but that's okay. We'll just keep trying.
No, I would say tease them. Listen to the podcast for the John Anderson story.
This is the last segment. It should be about, hey, thanks for joining us. What do you have coming up, as well as talk about the book, and then close it out. Hey, we're going to overtime, and stay with us here. Thanks for joining us for the radio version of the Jeremiah Show. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. How much time do we have to do that?
You have about 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
we'll jump in there.
Squeeze it in and just go with it. All
You
right.
can turn me off.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Hi, this is Mike Gormley, and this is the Jeremiah Show with special guest Brian Chatton, musician extraordinaire, jokester, and he has stories to tell us. But before we get into that, so this is going to be heard on Thursday. On Saturday, you've got something coming up. Before we get into the John Anderson story,
I'm going to do a live stream show, 30-minute show, 2 o'clock Pacific time on my Facebook page, Brian Chatton. Facebook.com/Brian Chatton. That's where you would go. That's where I'm going to be doing a live show. So it's, if you've had problems sleeping or anything, tune in.
Well, that's an endorsement right there.
Well, I'll be asleep. I don't know about you.
Well, all right. So John Anderson. So he's in your first band. We're still in your first band. We've only got another 55 years to cover. But tell us a bit about John Anderson. We've got about a minute and a half before we head out.
All right. Well, Tony was walking by a river. They'd all taken acid. They had a day off. And
Tony K from
the band was fishing.
Just want to make sure Tony K from Yes is who you're referring to.
Yes, Tony K from Yes. Him and another guy from the band. I'm not going to mention who it was who was fishing, but they saw him fishing. They were all tripping their heads off. So they went down and said, let's go and tap him on the shoulder and see how he's doing. So they got down and they tapped him on his shoulder, and he turned around and says, yeah, what do you want? And so they said, how are you getting on? Have you caught anything yet? And he said, no. And Tony said, I'm not surprised. I said, why? The hook isn't in the water.
What a fisherman he is.
Yeah, I can't say who it is. I can't. I'm just, it's not fair. But anyway, there was good times had by all. We really had.
There's a lot of stories like that. Now we've got just a little bit of time. I want to thank you, Brian, very much. If anyone wants to continue hearing some stories, our podcast will be picking up some more Brian Chatton glee and joy. But thank you, Brian, so much for being on, and it's always good to see you and hear your stories. And we'll wrap up with Rolling with Rock Royalty is the name of the book, and it can be found online, and a new album, or a relatively new album coming out with John Anderson playing mostly Brian Chatton music, and that's called 1,000 Hands. Is that correct?
Yeah, and by the way, Mike, just one last thing. It's nice to see you back in men's clothing. Okay?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much. Oops, we've disconnected him. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen. All right. All right. Stand by. Let me get set up.
Why is Brian's visual frozen here?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're frozen as well.
It's got to be
I
his
just
internet.
had,
Internet, yeah, that's what it is.
Am I in? Is my mic on?
Your mic is on. They can hear you.
Just so you guys, both of you know, you can. I mean, if you feel like it, if you can swear, you can say whatever you want in the podcast. It's
Yeah.
not edited for radio.
Right. Okay.
You can, if you feel that you need
feel
to,
the
you
need for-
feel free.
All right, who's doing what?
Ah.
Where's that coming from?
Probably trying the
Are you trying the microphone?
video maybe.
Brian, there's something going on with your phone there?
Yeah.
no,
Oh, I think it's okay.
Turned off.
Oh, and it's everything's come back. You're back now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll
cool.
try him on the microphone for a podcast. He's back.
I'm still frozen, I think.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
are still frozen
visually.
here at this end as well, but that's at your end from the internet. But we can still hear you.
If
Oh, now
anything,
you're-
I'd rather have a better sound.
You know what? Let's stick with the phone if we can, okay?
Yes. Okay.
All right, so make sure that your microphone on Zoom is muted.
Right.
It is muted. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It got unmuted. I don't know how.
It
but
is.
Maybe everything will be cool now.
It is muted now. Okay. All right, we're ready for the podcast.
Right.
And
No
we
breaks.
have about 15, 17 minutes. So you can go straight on through for that time.
No interruptions.
No interruptions.
All right. Well, let me know when to start and we'll get into it.
In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Gormley. This is the Jeremiah Show. And if that confuses you, it's because I'm sitting in for Jeremiah, you may have guessed. Our guest today is Brian Chatton, a musician extraordinaire from England, although he's lived in LA for some time now. And his career throughout his career, he's worked with Phil Collins and John Anderson, and the list goes on. And we were hearing some great stories from the very beginning of his career, which included a band with John Anderson, and then later on a band with Phil Collins. But so we're still in the early stages. I've got to mention something on this. In the book, that's why he's on podcast, by the way. It's called Rolling with Rock Royalty. And here's something that's crazy. There's 4 pages of, as he puts it, some people I've met, worked with, called friends, or gotten into general mischief with over the past 50 years. It starts with ABBA. It goes to Albert Lee. It goes to Andy Warhol and B.B. King. It goes to Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's 4 pages of people you've dealt with. Phil Collins, we mentioned the Hollies, which I'd love to talk about. Spencer Davis, Jack Bruce from Cream, who looked down on you, evidently, at a party. Jimi Hendrix, Joe Cocker, Pat Travers, Sheena Easton, Ronnie Wood. Good heavens, man! And that's a long list of friends and fellow band members. You ever look back on it and go, "What the hell happened? Where'd that come from?"
The way I see it, Mike, is I'm just very, very old. You know, and if I can't do anything good yet in the music business, then I should go back to the milk round that I did for a year.
Yes. Well, you're also very, very talented. So all is well. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine.
Well, I hope that you still think so after I do my live stream show on Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Live stream on Facebook at 2:00 Pacific time. You're going to do a solo show?
Yes, it's a solo thing, and I'm going to do it all without a safety net, and I'm going to try and keep my clothes on.
You could do that. You can do that. I've seen you try to do that before, and once it worked. Are you there? I've lost.
I am there, but I'm sorry, I didn't get that last thing.
Nothing. It's okay. Hey, we got to jump around here. I know you had a John Anderson story, but I want to talk about a couple of things of importance. You were in a band. You're not only in the band, you were the band. along with a couple of other people, called Boys Don't Cry, who had a massive hit with a song called I Want to Be a Cowboy. And is that the highlight, or does that just another notch in the belt along your way? Because it was a great record, and it just did really, really well. It was a gold record.
It was a shock, first of all, but I have to say it was the most lucrative thing I've ever done in the music business, with my clothes on. But I tell you, again, screaming time, especially when we played in Texas, it was brilliant. And we did the Calgary Stampede, and oh my, I mean, we really earned our reputation there.
Did you do American Bandstand?
Yes, we did that 3 times. We were on that,
really?
And we never actually appeared on physically. But every time, for 3 weeks on a row, they played it as the last song on American Bandstand. We also did, Soul Train?
You did Soul Train.
That was cool. And we did the Music Hall in New York. I mean, tons of stuff. But of course, I did Meatloaf as well. So I also played all those places with Meat. So Meat, Potato, and 2 Veg, as I call him, when he's with his wife and 2 girls, 2 daughters.
Meatloaf years were interesting years. You were in the band for quite a while with him.
With Meatloaf, a year. Boys Don't Cry was a lot longer, 5 years.
Oh.
It was great fun, but I don't even play. I shouldn't say this. I don't even play it in my live stream because it's a tough one. I might do one called "I Want to Be a Cowboy and You Can Be My Cowboy," and do it totally gay. And I think that might work out great.
That might work out.
You can dance in one of the cages if you want, Mike.
Oh, thank you. You're such a kind man. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. You're just open to anything. But it's the Meatloaf days in the book. You're in there for quite a while. I mean, he's an interesting guy to have worked with. Was it an up and down? Because I understand he can be a bit difficult, or is that incorrect?
You're talking about
Meatloaf, yeah.
Yeah, he was very intimidating, his size, etc. However, he was a big, soft, big bear. Every morning when we're in the coach, he'd give us all a big cuddle. But he taught me one day when the mic was on, he'd get into an early sound check, and he never comes early, and he walked in with his wife and his 2 daughters, and my mic was on, and I didn't know, and I said, "Hey guys, hey up, here comes Meat, Potato, and 2 Veg." He went friggin' bananas. He says, "Chatton, I'll kill you, man." And he come running down the stadium, and I jumped off this 20-foot motorbike that was on the back of the stage and just ran for my life. And when he eventually caught me, the way he punished us was he'd sit on us.
Was that word sit? He'd sit on you?
Yes.
Well, that's punishment right there.
It was. But he was a great guy. I learned a lot from him because he's a great showman. He'd go on stage 5 minutes before he was supposed to start in front of the safety curtain with all the lights on, and he'd walk across and everybody going, oh, there he is. And he'd stop at the microphone in the middle, look at the biggest Hell's Angel and say, you pig, get up here. I'm going to kick your flipping ass. And the crowd would go wild. He was a sensationalist. Brilliant, honestly. And he sometimes, I think he'd go out of tune, and he would get off backstage and he'd say, "You guys played flat all night." Because he'd think sharp, you see.
Because it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. It was, he was never, he told everybody I was the oldest guy in the band, and that was a lie. He's a year or so older than me. I had to put up with it.
Yeah.
A lot of great Meatloaf stories I've put in there, actually. And John Miles, he was another cool character.
John Miles was actually by reading the book, an interesting time for you. I mean, that was John Miles would play, and the opening acts would be like Tom Petty and Journey and Foreigner.
That's
and
right.
So on.
Yeah. You read that book, didn't you? You read it, Mike. You don't get, at least somebody read it. Jesus.
Yeah, somebody read it. I had somebody read it to me.
It's been out 2 years.
Somebody read it to me, Brian. I don't want you to get carried away.
Oh, nice. All right.
I see? I got up this morning and said, "What are the highlights? Give me a few highlights so I can pretend I read the book."
Yeah. Well, how about I can't discuss what happened with Phil Collins across the road from the bus queue, can I?
Yeah, no, go ahead. We're in podcast.
No. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Well,
because it really is naughty.
Actually,
very naughty.
That may be a good idea to keep that one out.
All right, well, you can read about that. It's a XXX. I say danger, danger when I'm telling stories that only kids would write. And,
right.
You know, adolescent children. That's what I am sometimes in that book.
Well, and it's there. Rolling with Rock Royalty is the name of the book for anybody who wants to go and look up some of these stories. It's not a little book. It's a fairly thick book. An interesting aspect of this book, I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but it seems for about 15 or 20 pages at the end, you've got pictures of friends and stories about them. It's like a little addition to the book of you just wanted to say hi to some friends. It's actually quite sweet, which you've probably never heard in reference to Brian Chatton before, but it's actually quite sweet of how you talk about some nice people you've met along the way, and some of them are famous and some are not.
Yeah, I do. I kind of left a whole section at the back of the book, and I thought, what would I have liked my friends to do if they were writing a book? And that is, if they were good, to be mentioned. So there's so many cool musicians around that never get a shot, and so I devoted the entire back of the book to all these very, very great players. Albert Lee, of course, is one of them. He's more well known than most of the others, but really some fantastic players that I've met. So I'm very happy that I did that, because I keep seeing them, bumping into them, and they buy me a drink. So it was worth it.
Yeah, that's a good move.
You haven't bought me one yet.
Well, I haven't seen you for a while, but next time.
All right, I'll keep it to that.
We'll see who's faster with the credit card, or slower, actually, in your case.
Yeah. Oh, the only time I have a good memory is when I remember whose round it is, and all of a sudden it all comes back to me.
That's good. Hey, look, I'm not even sure how much time we have left, but this is one of my favorite bands from England, and from part of the so-called British invasion, were the Hollies.
Oh yeah.
The harmonies and their songs, but also their singing. And I remember as a kid first hearing them. Their first record I heard was a song called "Just One Look," which was an old R&B tune. But their harmonies blew me away. And you did some writing for them, and you actually produced with them. You produced them at one point. Is that right?
That's right. The early 80s was ridiculous for me. I needed to be cloned at least 3 or 4 times to handle all the stuff. For some reason, it all just came to me. I didn't have to look for anything. It all came to me. Wrote for Sheena Reese, and I wrote the song for the Hollies, who I produced in the Beatles studio at Abbey Road. There's a tiny studio at the top where the Beatles spent most of their recording history. And I went by the 4-track machine that was in there that they'd recorded Sergeant Plopyed on. And I just got blown away. The hairs everywhere on my body stuck on end as I sat behind this desk that had Boeing 747 faders still on it, that Paul and John had their mitts on. And I said, oh boy, this is the pinnacle. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And we did Take My Love and Run, and it was really good. I did a few TVs with them, all to be seen on YouTube.
It's all there.
Oh, it's all there. Just about it. You know, what a great time to be alive and a musician with all the internet going on. I was scared to death of coming to America because I thought they wouldn't know me, but it was great. It was, you know, it wasn't easy because there's a lot of better keyboard players around than just in little old London, but everybody had heard of me because of the internet, so it was fine.
So what brought you to
alligator
America? You were still playing. You were busy, but what brought you to the United States? Besides, I know you're going to say an airplane, right? But never mind the smart ass stuff. What got you to come over?
I got fed up of hearing garage bands and rap music and all this lot. And there's some good stuff. I don't want to come over sounding like an old fogey, but at that time when rap first started, it was, you know, it was a little primitive. You know, everybody sounded the same. You couldn't hear anything that anybody was saying. And in fact, if you played it backwards, it sounded exactly the same. So it didn't do a lot for me. So I said, where's the rock gone? Has England forgotten about rock? Come on. And so I looked at the American situation, and about 25% of Americans were still listening to rock and roll. Unfortunately, 89% was listening to country.
Oh, okay.
And is that a dirty word here or what?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Country and Western acts, don't get me wrong, but I'm fed up of hearing about the dog that gets shot and, you know, people out of work and this, that, and the other.
On that note, we're going to wind up our talk. It's been great chatting with Chatton. There's a show name for you.
Very nice.
And we Brian Chatton with his book Rolling with Rock Royalty, his great music, which will you're going to do Facebook Live on Saturday at 2:00 Pacific time. Saturday, what date would that be on Saturday? 18th or something, whatever Saturday is. But the podcast may be heard after that date. Nevertheless, it's been great to chat with you. It's gone by very quickly. We must do this again sometime, as they say. Brian, thanks so much.
I'm busy till at least tomorrow. Formerly Mike Gormley.
All right. Well, we'll take note of that and get back to you later.
All right, dear.
All right. This is the Jeremiah Show.
Guys, and thanks very much.
Oh, glad to have you. This is Mike Gormley of the Jeremiah Show. Jeremiah couldn't make it today, as usual. So we've had a great talk with Brian Chatton. Nice to see you, man. Nice to hear from you. Keep playing the great music you play.
Thanks, mate.
All right, we're clear.
Thanks, Brian. That was a great
Excellent,
interview. Great stories.
Excellent.
Yeah, I just wish it was true.
Well, you know, hey.
Hey, what's true anymore?
Yeah, what's true anymore? Come on, Brian.
Yeah, what's that got to do with it?
Like, what's that got to do with it?
Small detail.
And that's not important right now.
Small details.
No, it isn't. Is it? The only thing that was true was I played with the Bay City Rollers. That's all.
There you go. Weren't they a roller derby team? Seem to remember.
No, not exactly. No, I mean they wanted me to wear those Scottish knickerbockers, and I said you got 2 chances. And,
Slim and none, and Slim has left the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, I had a friend who was working on a TV show, and the Bay City Rollers were to play. And he said that the keyboards, all the keys except for the ones he was supposed to play, had been removed. So he could play the right notes in the song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one, isn't it, eh?
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't make any difference because we played the Budokan, 3 concerts there in Japan, and couldn't hear a damn thing. I couldn't hear anything. Nothing.
Wow.
Just screaming and shouting and kamikaze chicks jumping off the first bleeding balcony and landing on the drummer's head. That was a bit nasty.
That was interesting.
All right, gentlemen.
Man. Thank
Gotta
you.
let you go. Thank you so much to the both of you.
Thank
and
you,
we will
Jeremiah.
Talk to you all
Thank you,
again.
guys.
Thank you, Richard.
All right.
You betcha. You betcha.
I'll see you later, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, guys. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
All right, disconnect that. They will jump off.
Can we play the intro for them to hear it? Like the one that